Hey, welcome students. In our video today, we're going to learn how to use Fusion 360 to create a virtual model of one of these CNC cut marble maze games. Excuse me. Our goal will be to, in the next video, program the router then to take and cut this machine or this maze out. It is 9:09 p.m. right now. I'm just going to say I'm tired. Hopefully I can get through this thing without stumbling all over myself again. Right, so here's an example of when I got started in Fusion. This is what we're going to make. I do want to point out these handles that we've built into it. That's what these slots are. They don't go all the way through on our virtual model. What we're going to do is send this through the planer upside down. Once we're done cutting it on the router, we'll plane away that bottom couple thousandths of an inch where there's material left to open up that piece. Right, and that way we're not plunging our router bit all the way through, cutting into our work table. Right, so if you've just opened up Fusion, typically you're going to come to this landing page here. It'll say design, and there will be a blank in the middle. The first thing we want to do is we're going to go up and we're going to save our project. Now, your location is probably going to say admin projects here. So what I'd like you to do is click on the drop down, click on new projects. You're going to type Woods One Game up top here, hit enter. And after you hit enter, you'll be able to scroll down to the bottom where we've got where your Woods One Game file is, right? I've got two here because I did a little bit of practice before this video. Then you're going to click on it, and the location up top should say Woods One Game, right? And then we're going to call this our CNC maze. Now we'll know that we've done the save correctly if we see the tab up top change from Untitled 1 to the title that we just gave it, CNC maze, right? So if the title doesn't show up there, you did something wrong. Go back through that save process again. Okay, so the way Fusion 360 works is we start off with a 2D sketch that we can turn into a 3D object. So this button here is our Create Sketch button. We're going to click on that. Then we're going to click on this view cube on the top over here, so we can just see this one work plane in the middle. Then we're going to go ahead and click on that, and this is where we get to make our sketch. Okay, now before we do our sketch, let's confirm that our units are in inches. Right? If it doesn't say inches, you're going to click on this pencil and paper, and then you're going to come over here to the drop down and set it to inches. I would say go ahead and check this set as default, and then you're going to click OK. I've got to click cancel because mine's already set to inches. Right, now that we're in inches, we're going to take this 2-point rectangle tool, and we're going to come hover right here where these two lines cross. And then I'm just going to click once. I'm not holding my mouse button down. I'm just clicking once, and I'm going to drag my mouse up into the right. Okay, I want to draw in this upper right-hand quadrant because I'm going to use the CNC router for this. This will just make some steps we do later on a little bit easier. Okay, now I can type in the dimension I want this piece to be. This is going to be 16 inches long. Okay, so I typed in 16. It just disappeared off my screen because we're zoomed in. I'm going to hit the tab button to toggle between these two boxes, and I want to assign a height of 5 inches to it. Right? Once I've got those two numbers locked in, I'm going to hit enter. We can see this blue square shows up on our screen, but we can't see all of it. So I'm going to click on this house, and now I can see my two dimensions. Right? So a couple things about dimensions. If you don't have your dimensions on there, maybe you forgot to put one on, I'm going to delete one just so you can see. It's not the end of the world. I can come up here to this dimension box. I can click on dimension. I can pick the line I want to dimension, and I can add a dimension to it. Right? If you dimensioned your project wrong, I just typed in 15 instead of 16. And again, not the end of the world. We can just double click on our dimension. It'll open that dialog box back up, and I can type in the number that I wanted and hit enter. Right? So once you've confirmed that you've got 5 by 16 here for your dimensions, say finish sketch, and we can move on. Right, now we're going to turn this into a 3D object by hitting this extrude button. And we want this to be extruded to a distance of 0.75. That's how thick our object is going to be. So once we've extruded it up, we've confirmed we got the right number on our screen. We're going to hit enter. And this is going to represent the box or the block of wood that we're going to cut our game out of. And so now I'm going to go create sketch again, and I'm going to click on the top. And this time I'm going to create the handles that we hold the game by. Okay, I just did that little dragging thing by holding the center mouse button down on my mouse, the roller ball, and moving it. If you don't have a mouse, you could use this pan tool down here at the bottom to grab and move this as well. And so now we're going to go to the 2-point rectangle. And this time I'm just going to draw kind of a random size rectangle on this left-hand side. And so I'm not really worried about how big or how small it is, as long as it fits on top. Then I'm going to take the dimension tool and I'm going to dimension its distance from the edge. All right, this is going to be held in 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to go 0.75 from the top. I'm going to come down to the bottom, click the bottom of my project. I'm going to open my dialog box up by clicking again. And this time I'm going to click on my 0.75 and you can see it copies D6. That means dimension number 6 into this box. And if I hit enter, right, it'll say FX 0.75. So that tells me it copied it over there. Okay, mine said D6, I should mention. If you've done more dimensioning, you might have a higher number there. If you've done less dimensions, you might have skipped some important dimensions earlier in this video. Right. So now I'm going to go sketch dimension from here to here. We'll go up, and again, I'm going to copy. Mine says D6. Yours might be different. I just realized yours might even say D5 because I did delete one dimension and then redraw it as an example. So don't panic if your numbers aren't exactly the same for these dimension numbers, but do panic if yours isn't in 3/4 of an inch here. That one's pretty important. Okay, now I want to set the overall dimension of this handle. So I'm going to, one more time, click on this line. I'm going to drag up, click again to open my box, and I want this one to be 1.5 inches long. Okay, now I'm going to come into the modify area, and I'm going to pick this fillet command, and that's going to let me round these corners over. Okay, I want to round them all to a radius of 0.5. So if it doesn't say 0.5, go ahead and change that. And then we can work our way around and click on these 4 corners to add a fillet to it. Once we got all 4 corners filleted, I can hit enter. I'm going to go finish sketch. And now we're going to grab the extrude tool. We're going to pick the area we want to change. And this time I don't want to add to it. I actually want to cut. So I'm going to come down here to cut. And I want to cut this distance of 0.7 of an inch deep. So just a little less than 3/4 of an inch. Okay, I had to hit a minus number there to get it to go down. It looks good on my screen, so I'm going to hit enter. All right, and now we're going to mirror the cutaway over to this end of our project. So to do that, I'm going to come to this plane section on my ribbon, and I'm going to come down to mid plane. So this is going to make a plane in between 2 existing planes. So I'll click this end of my object. I'm going to rotate it around. I will click this end of my object, and this plane shows up in the middle, right, which is where I wanted that mid plane to be. So then we're going to go ahead and click on OK. All right, now I kind of spun my object around, so I can always hit this home button to rotate it back to the way it was originally. All right, and now under the create ribbon area, I can come down to the mirror tool, and I'm going to change this from bodies, which is what yours probably defaults to features. So make sure features is picked. All right, then we're going to pick this feature, and I'm going to go to mirror plane, and I'm going to select this plane in the middle, and you can see it mirrors my handle over to the other side. And if it bothers you that mirror plane is in the middle, you can turn the visibility on and off by clicking on this little eye here. All right, and so this is kind of the structured part. Yours needs to look like this. The fun part about making this maze project is you get to decide what exactly the maze is going to look like. So we're going to go create sketch. Again, we want to go on this surface. Okay, so you're going to pick a starting and a stopping spot. Right? I like to do like a big circle for those just so people can tell that's the goal. Right? You can decide how big or small you want that circle. I would recommend doing it somewhere between 0.5 and 1 inch. Right? So I'm going to go 1 inch just so it's big and easy to see on my screen. All right. And then I've found it works best if you kind of space these out kind of far away on here, just so people have got some choices they need to make. You could try putting them next to each other and see what you think. Right? You can redo this thing as many times as you want, right? Because it's your maze. So if you don't like it, we can always edit it when we're done. So once we got those two circles on there, I'm going to say finish sketch. I'm going to go to the extrude again. This time I'm going to click these two profiles. I'm going to change this to cut. All right, and we are going to cut these down a distance of 0.25. So we're going to go a 1/4 inch deep. All right, now I hit a positive number. That should be a negative number. All right, so that's going to recess them down. All right, now I'm going to make the paths between here. So I'm going to go to sketch. All right, and what I like to do to get started, I like mine to look like it's centered on here. So I'm going to go to the create area. I'm going to go to rectangle, and then I'm going to go to a center rectangle, which lets me pick the center of this object. So there's my center point, and then I'm going to drag my rectangle, and I actually might go like this with my rectangle. Right now, I don't care how long it is, but I do care about how wide it is. I'm going to cut this in at a distance of 0.4. Right, so I want you folks to use that same number on yours, 0.4, and then I'm going to hit enter. Right, and then I'm going to come to this rectangle and I'll do, or this circle, and I'll do the same thing with that center rectangle tool. All right, so again, I'm just doing this because I like my maze paths to be centered on here. So I want the width to be 0.4. All right, and this can be whatever, some random length. Okay, now I'm going to go to finish sketch. And what I'm going to do is go to extrude, and I want my entrance path to come off of this one and this one. So I'm going to pick these two areas. I'm going to change this to cut, and then I'm going to set my distance to minus 0.25. And it's going to cut down, and it should go level with the bottom of our circle. I got a little line here, so it's making me think maybe I didn't do my circle to the same depth. So I'm going to go back to the extrusion for my circle. I'm going to go to edit feature. Well, I did do this to minus 0.25. We cut it. All right. Let's check this one again. Did I type it in wrong? Well, I went to minus 5. Well, that would do it. All right, so we're going to go minus 0.25. All right, now you can see that bottom looks nice and smooth. So that's telling me I did it correctly this time. All right. Let's see how many minutes we got left on our recording here. Ooh, 2 minutes and 25 seconds. All right, I'm going to try and speed this up so we can get through the whole process here. So now what I'm going to do is go new sketch. I'm going to sketch on the top. Okay, we'll drag this. Oops. That's what I get for speed. And we're going to drag this over. And I've got two options here. I think what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to use the line tool. I can get it to go right to the center, which is where that X and triangle is. And then I can drag a line out. All right, and I'm going to make this my correct path. Now I'm using 90-degree angles. You don't necessarily have to do this if you don't want to, right? But I am using 90-degree angles. So now I'm going to hover over the center of this one. I'll just come up a little bit. And I'll come down to that center point. All right, what I'm going to do next is use the offset tool. I'm going to pick this whole line, and I'm going to say I want to offset 0.2. And then I'm going to hit enter. And so you can see it let me offset this way. Kind of got a little confused about what to do at this corner. We can go back and fix that up. I'm going to offset here. And again, I want to offset to a distance of 0.2. Maybe one of you can figure out how to make that my default. But this time, I'm going to drag my cursor that way. Oh, now I got to go into 0.2 again. Oh, I see what's happening. I got to go minus 0.2. And that'll offset my rectangle that way. All right. So I think what happened here is it didn't know how to come around this corner and not run into this thing. So I might have to clean this up with just a couple of lines. I know this line is probably 0.2 away. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to purposely go through that object. All right, and then just to keep this thing the same so it looks nice and uniform, I'm going to go from this line to this line, and I'll dimension that at 0.2, and that'll bring that up a little bit. Okay, so we're going to finish this sketch, and you probably guessed what we're going to do here. We're going to pick these paths, and we want to extrude them as a cut. Right, distance of minus 0.25. All right,